Hey, welcome to the Trick Taking Table. I'm Teton, the Grand Teton. Ah! Look at those mountains. Well, as such, we will be covering games without the games. I don't have them, but I'll put the designers on screen. And the two games we're covering today are Final Binary and Fixer. So Final Binary, the hook is, it's actually the designer of Nikos Dice. I believe it's their game since Nikos Dice. So huge build up. I'm so excited to see if it's good. Is it? Well, the hook is, it's still bid as you go, so kind of like Nikos Dice, but you have numbers in front of you that are always going to add to the rank that you play. And those numbers are going to change depending on every time you say, I'm not going to take 3 tricks, or every time you kind of winnow down your bid. It's a really fascinating kind of system there where you're boosting the rank depending on what you do with bid as you go. So super fascinating. And then we're covering
Lunar trick, where the hook is the very first trick of a hand is simultaneous, and that is going to set up what the suits are in the game and what the trump is in the game. Pretty wild.
Really fascinating stuff. So let's go to the table and talk about
Lunar
Fixer
trick
and Final Binary. But first, look at that, huh? Absolutely gorgeous. All right, later. Hey, Future Taylor, I did want to interject. You might have noticed a little bit of a voiceover. I couldn't get Fixer in time, but I did get Lunar trick, and I do want to shout out Tricky Imports who helped me grab Lunar trick. Ty is a pal, so take it with a grain of salt, but that was so kind of them to shoot this on over. This is a hot one from the recent game market, so it's been nice to cover it. Just wanted to explain that weird voiceover. Anyway, awesome. I'm Future Taylor signing off to Past Taylor, all right? Bye, thanks again, Ty, Tricky Imports, woo!
The deck in Lunar trick is made up of 32 cards. You are going to have 1 through 30, where 1 through 15 is the rising moon, and then 16 through 30 is the falling moon. Also, you're going to have the lunar eclipse card and the solar eclipse card. The solar eclipse card is only included at 4 players. Here we have a game of Lunar tricks that are for 3 players. I'm going to teach the 4 players later, but no matter the player count, you're going to set up the board. You're going to put all the point chip tokens up here. These 3 pieces are used to determine what the suits are, the trump, tracking card, and then you're going to shuffle and deal cards to each player. At 4 players, you're going to deal 8 to each player, and at 3 players, you're going to deal 10 to each player, and any left over are just going to be face down, left out for the round. Also, each player is going to get 2 of these cards. These are dividers, and they have the same backs as all the playing cards, and they're just going to help players know how suits are determined, which I'll explain in a little bit. And then finally, since this is a 4-player game, we're not going to use the solar eclipse card, but I'll explain how to use that later. The first trick in every hand of Lunar trick is simultaneous, and it's actually different than every other trick in that hand. How it works is, in the very first trick, everyone is going to look at their hands, and they can pick any card they want to play face down into that first trick, except for the lunar eclipse card. So say this Manchego, I believe cheese up here, plays this card face down, overnight oats plays this, and blue cheese plays that. Once everyone's ready, you're going to reveal the cards, and then you're going to put one of these golden discs on each of the numbers. So the 5, the 2, and the 25. What this simultaneous trick does is a few things. It kind of sets the game up. First, it dictates what the suits are for the game. So suits aren't rising moon or falling moon in Lunar trick. What they are is everything that's in between the golden discs. So in this example here, one suit is going to be just the numbers 3 and 4. They're their own suit. Then one suit is going to be 6 through 24, a huge suit. And then finally, there's going to be a 26 through 1 suit. I'll explain how those suits work in the subsequent tricks. It is must follow and all that happens. But first, we're going to talk about also the trump suit. How trump is determined is you're going to look at which side, either rising or falling, has more of the golden discs, and that is going to be trump. So it'll either have 2 or 3, like if someone played the 15, it would look like that. But someone played the 25. So the top part here, the rising moon, has a majority of the discs. So you're actually going to flip this trump card, and trump is going to be 1 through 15. So in this game, like that 3 will beat 30 through 16, for example. Now we have trump set. This also dictates who won that first trick, because it is the first trick. So you're going to see who played the highest number in the trump. That is the 5 here. So this Overnight's Oats player actually won this first trick, and then they will lead into the next trick. Everyone had, like I showed in the setup, 2 divider cards. And so what players can do now is they can use those divider cards to split up their hand into the correct suits. So one suit was 3 and 4. This player doesn't have, the player does have a 3. So they're going to surround that pretty much in those. So they know that is its own suit. And then 6 through 24, they're going to have on the right, or they can, put it anywhere they want, but maybe they want to choose on the right. So now this player over here, the Overnight Oats player, has these cards, which are all one suit, and I can fully sort that just to make folks not mad at me in the comments. But so that's one suit. This player has one suit here, then a split divider here, then the 3, which is a different suit, and then the 28, 29, and 30 in another suit. So let's say this player here wanted to be cheeky, and if they led the 3, coming to the blue cheese player who has not sorted their hand, I apologize, they don't have any of that suit because they don't have the 4, right? So they can play whatever they want. They could play a high blue, which would win because likely the other player might have the 4, or maybe not, but they could play the 1 to definitely lose, or they could play any of these to also definitely lose because, again, the rising moon is the trump. Maybe they want to do that. Maybe they want to just play this 16 there. Coming finally to the Manchego player, they do have the 4, so it is must follow because it is part of that suit, so they must play that card. So highest of the trump would play if there was trump. If not, it would be highest of the led suit. So this player played the highest of the led suit and also the highest trump card. They're going to win that trick, collect it, and then lead to the next trick. So let's say they lead 21. Now, we know 21 is this giant, giant, giant suit. So coming to this player over here, they can play any of these cards. If they play the 18, they'll be losing. If they play the 23, they'll be currently winning. So maybe they do that. But coming to the blue cheese player, they have to follow suit. So they can't play 26 or 27. They have to play in this bigger suit, right? And similarly, they could lose, but maybe they want to win. So they're actually going to play. They can't play the 1 because, again, it's not in that suit. But they can play the 9. And again, since currently the rising moon is winning, or it's trump, this wins the trick. So they're going to collect that trick. So the flow like this is going to continue until they've played all the tricks out. The one caveat, and you can kind of see it right there, is if you ever capture the lunar eclipse, like let's say this player plays the 14, coming over to this player here, they play the lunar eclipse because you can play it whenever you want. And then coming over to this player here, 14 was in this suit, so maybe they play that. If you ever capture the lunar eclipse, and it is the smallest, the lowest of trump. So maybe let's actually do a spicier example here. Let's say we do that. This person would win because it's the lowest of trump. It'd be the lowest rising moon. If you ever capture this, not only do you get the trick, it counts as a trick, but also the card itself, capturing the card itself, counts as an additional trick. So this player up here actually, by capturing that trick, has 2 tricks, and they can separate it off like that. And so that is the gameplay. We're going to jump now to the scoring. How scoring works is really simple, and it's actually on this sheet here. If I lift it up, if you take 1 or 5 tricks, you are going to get 2 points. If you take 3 tricks, you're going to get 1 point. And if you take anything else, so 0, 2, 4, 6 plus, you're going to get 0 points. And how you keep track of it is you just take these little pie pieces here. And as you can see, this might indicate how the game ends. When you have 5 of them, you win, because look, you made a moon. How wonderful. So players are just going to keep playing rounds until someone has made a moon, and then whoever has the most points wins. The differences at 4 are there are 8 tricks in a round, but also you include the solar eclipse card. The solar eclipse card is here on the mat. It's that bottom part here. And how the solar eclipse card works is when you are dealt it at the very start, it has to be the card you choose to go into the center. So there's always going to be 3 cards in the center to determine the 3 suits and the solar eclipse card. And at 4 players, that first trick actually evaluates a little bit differently. Whoever played this card is going to take just this card. Whoever played the strongest is going to take the strongest. So say it was this one. So they've taken a trick. Whoever played the solar eclipse card is going to take this. This also counts as a trick, remember, because it's one here. And then they're going to lead to the next trick, so the second trick, afterward. So not the player who won this, like they would in 3 players. And that's how to play Lunar Trick. The deck and final binary is made up of 4 suits numbered 1 through 10, but depending on the player count, you might not use certain cards. There's also suit cards where they don't have any ranks on them, which will make sense later, but there's also about 10 or so of those of each suit, depending again on player count. So there's 10 at 5, and then there's 8 at 4, and 6 of each at 3. And then again, there's normal cards here at 4 players. You're not going to use the 7 through 10, and at 3 players, you're actually not going to use any of those. It's just the 1 through 3 of those normal suits. Here we have a game of Final Binary set up for 3 players, and I know this looks like a mess. The setup is kind of a mess. There's a lot to this game. In fact, the rulebook has a preparation phase and then a setup phase for each hand. So for the preparation phase, you have to set up the deck for both the suit or the rankless cards and the cards that have both suit and rank per player count, and you also have to set up the bid cards per player count. And then you also have to set up this special for each player count. So once you set that up, you'll be ready to go. At 5 players, you're going to include all of these, and all of these, and all of these, and all of these. That's easy. It's kind of set up for 5 players. As I said, in the deck makeup, for 4 and 3 players, you're going to remove some cards. So at 4, you're taking out the 7 through 10, and at 3, you're taking out the 4 through 10 of the ranks, and then you are going to include only a certain amount of these suits at 3. So at 3, you're going to have 6, 8 each to each player, and then you're going to deal 4 each of the rank and suit cards to each player. So it's separate like that just because during the deal you'll separate them as you're dealing them, but to the players they can just combine them. So players can now combine their cards, so players will have those hands. You're also going to shuffle the trump deck and flip a card, and that is going to be trump for the round, so it's just random trump. So in this first round, it's going to be blue. Each player also is dealt 8 of these bid cards. They're going to look at them, look at their hand, look at trump, and they're going to choose which 2 they want to pass. So maybe this player up here thinks they have, because they have a lot of blue, they think they have a strong hand, they're going to pass some of their lower bids. So they're going to maybe pass the 0 and the 1. And so players do that simultaneously. So this player will pass 2 over here, this player will pass 2 over here. After they do that, they're going to add their purple bid, which is a similar bid, to their stack of bids. So now players have 8 bids, 2 they've passed and 2 they've gotten from a pass, and then 1 from the setup. So as you can see, it's gonna it's gonna a little bit cleaner here. So now onto these. Next, the players will set up their binary cards. So each player will have 3 zeros flipped to the 0 side, and on the back will be 4, a 1, and a 2. And you're going to have it to where it goes decreasing order here. Kind of like binary if you are familiar with that. Hence, final binary. Also, part of setup is after players have done the passing and all that, they're going to look at their purple card, and that is going to denote which one they flip right now to kind of initially seed their setup. So this player over here has the 3, but it has those 2 dots, which is 3 in binary, right? I believe. I'm going to flip that there. And this player over here has the 5. So it's the outer 2 ones. So they are going to have the 4 and the 1 flipped for now. And so once players have all that set up, they're going to take their bid cards and they're going to organize them from highest to lowest. And that is going to go underneath their register. So it's going to look a little bit much on the small table. In fact, I'll just move that up a little bit and underneath here. So they're going to set that out. This player here has a lot of 5s and 6s. So it's going to be spread out like this. All the players are going to do that, but for the sake of space, I'm just going to show you when they would use them and have them kind of set up like this over near their player. So we have the coasters on the coaster. That is nice. And then the pens are over on the pens. So now that everything's set up, we're going to start with the start player. That could be anyone. Let's just say it is random and it's the coaster here. So in Final Binary, it is a bid as you go game, and these are the bids that you're trying to hit, and this is the number of tricks you're trying to get. In addition to that little twist, there's also the twist of the numbers that are in front of you. So this player over here has a 5 because it's 4 plus 1. This player over here has a 3, 2 plus 1, and this player over here has a 4. That is going to add to the rank of the card that you play. So let's go into it. This player over here maybe just leads a 1 in red. And now, since they have a 4 in front of them, they've actually played a 5 in red. Final Binary is a must-follow game. So coming over to this candle circle, the candle 0 over here, they must follow with a red. Let's just show a simple example. They play a 3 here. And as I was saying, 3 plus 5 is 8. And finally, coming to this player over here, they have to follow suit, so they only have that card actually. So yeah, they had to play it. And this player played a 5. So this player over here wins the trick. They're going to collect the trick and then lead to the next trick. So that's pretty simple. Simple trick taking, as you know. Well, let's get a little bit more spicy. So coming over here, this player doesn't want to play any of their ranked cards anymore. They want to play a rankless card. And so similarly, you always add the number, but this right here starts at 0. But first, whenever you play a suitless card, you're always going to cancel out one of your potential bids. So this is where the bid as you go come into play. So this player here thinks they're not going to take 6. Maybe they think that's too high. They are going to choose one of their 6 bids. They're all the same, so it doesn't matter. And they're going to flip it. And when you flip one of your bid cards, you're going to look at the spots here that are highlighted, and you're going to flip your bits in the same way. So this is going to flip a 6, because they do that when they play this, and that has those 2 left dots. So they're going to flip this and flip this. Wild, right? So now they play a 0 plus a 3. So it kind of went down by 2, as you can see. So they played a 3 red. Coming up to this pen player here, they could jump in if they wanted to. Maybe they don't really mind, so they're going to play the green. And maybe they decide to flip this right here. So they flip the 3. They don't want the 3 to be a viable bid. Again, they had all these options right here, but we're just going to condense them. And when they flip the 3, as we know, the 3 has the rightmost, the 2 rightmost flipped. So that's going to flip. So now they have played a 0 in green. It is still must follow. So coming to the coaster over here, they must play red, and it's a suitless red. So that means that they are going to be bidding a little bit. And maybe, so that's a 3, maybe they want to take this trick. So they could do nothing. They say, hey, if I'm going to take this trick, I'm not going to do any 0 bid. Notice how nothing's closure. They're going to flip that. That doesn't switch any of the bits, so it stays at a 4. 4 beats a 3. They're going to win this trick because this isn't trump. If it's the same number, later played wins. So they're going to collect this trick. And flow like that is just going to continue. So players are going to play the trick, must follow, highest wins, ties, later played wins. Again, the twist is, every time you play a rankless card, you are going to pick one of your bids and winnow down your bid. So maybe this player here is like, I don't think I'm going to get 7. So they're going to flip this. They have now crossed the 7 out of, or one of the 7s, they might have another one, out of being their bid. They're going to flip all of them, because 7 is every single one of these cards, all the registers, if you think about it that way. And then they played a 3 blue. So yeah, flow like that is going to continue, and players are going to play out all the tricks, and that's going to winnow down their bids until they will have 1 card remaining. That will be the number of tricks they're trying to win. All players will have that, and then we will go to scoring. So before we go to scoring, I do want to say, when you get down to the winnowing rate, players will get shorter and shorter. And if a player is all the way down, so like let's say this player over here only has that left, and this player over here only has that left, you actually, if you are the last remaining person, cannot make it. So the number of tricks that you end up bidding equal perfect, if that makes sense. But 3 players, it is 12. I think I'm doing the math right. So in this case, they bid 6 and 4. So if this player was winnowing down and they had everything but the 6 and 5 left, maybe they really wanted to bid 5, or maybe they really wanted to bid 6 rather, and that would make the math equal to 12, and they can't do that. So in this situation, they would have to flip their 6 and go to 5. Jumping ahead to the end of scoring, and the scoring depends on a few things. 1 is the round number. That's going to change some things. 2 is how well a person did. And 3 is the group difference on how well kind of the group did. So how you compute difference is just absolute value between the bid and the number of tricks you took. So this coaster player over here, bid 4, got 4. Their absolute value, or their difference, is 0. Whereas this player up here, the pen, they bid 2 but got 3. So they're off by 1. So their difference is 1. And down here, this player over here, bid 5, they got 2, so their difference is 3. So what you do is you sum up the difference between all the players. So 3 plus 1 plus 0, so we're going to get 4. And if you hit your bid, you're going to get points equal to the round number plus the sum of the difference from all the players. So let's say we're in the first round, this player over here would get 1 point because it's the first round, plus 4 because everyone else was off by 4, so they would get 5 points. If it was the second round, they would get 6 points. You get the idea. If you're off by 1, you just get 0 points no matter what. So if this player got 1 trick, or like they did get 3 tricks, they just got 0 points. And then finally, if you're off by 2 or more, you're going to lose a point per round for each amount off. So if we're in the first round here, this player over here would lose 3 points. But if you're in the second round, they actually lose 3 times 2, which is 6 points. And it gets worse as you do worse in the later rounds. So that's 1 round. You'll play 3 total rounds. And then whoever's the winner at the end wins. If it's still tied at the end of 3 rounds, you're actually going to play a 4th round, and then you're going to determine that. And if that is still tied at the end of 4 rounds, you're going to share the victory. And that's how to play Final Binary. So that is Final Binary and Lunar Trick. These 2 games are interesting. I've never had 2 games in a video that have both gotten such divisive reviews. I've heard everything from 9s and 10s to like my favorite games of the last kind of Tokyo Game Market cycles, all the way to like 5s and 6s. So let's unpack it. Let's see what people might like, what not like, what I do not like. And let's start with Lunar Trick. So I love the idea, and I love the production. The production's great. Like, I think the little tokens that add up to 5 are great. The little mat is awesome. I love the concept too. I think there's something with moons and phases of moons that always looks kind of nice on cards, and that aesthetic. The cards themselves are also very gorgeous. So I think as a production, it is definitely stellar. And as a hook, it's definitely stellar. At the very first trick, when it's simultaneously, you will choose what the suits will be. And sometimes there might be only 2 suits. Sometimes there's even 1 suit. I love that idea. I think when it comes down to it, and this is what some folks have issue with, I think the crux is that first simultaneous trick. I think that's what is rubbing people the wrong way, and I think that was what kind of makes the game for some folks. I think it's interesting that you have a 1/3 vote into what Trump will be. You also, depending on what card you play, will, obviously help choose rank, but that just seems all kind of random. So I think what it more is you have a 1/3 vote, and if you play a higher number, you probably will win. I don't know what the math is on any of it, but I think if you play a 30, you will probably win more than a 1. I don't know, again, the math. But obviously, if the 1 through 15 is Trump, then you won't. But I think if it's equal 50-50, like, the higher number would win. Again, no clue. I don't know math on it. But so I think that simultaneous trick is a little bit of like a, do you want to win it in a way if you play like a higher number, but also you are voting 1/3 of what Trump is. So after that, though, I think it's a relatively basic trick-taking game. Like, you just want to win 1 trick or 5 tricks, and 3 is like this consolation prize if you're kind of stuck in the middle there. I think it's good. I think it's definitely solid. The gameplay itself, after that kind of hook of the simultaneous trick, seems very okay. Like, you're looking at your hand, and you always are just reevaluating it depending on what suits come out, right? So sometimes there's a really short suit, and you have the highest of that short suit. You're like, okay, I'll probably win. And sometimes you have a really long suit, and you're in the middle. You're like, oh, will this win? So I think it's a game where that initial trick is like the hook, variable length suits, and it's kind of player defined. But in the end, it just, to me, feels like you're just having a somewhat random way to determine what suits are in the game. And it's cool. It values winning, values losing, kind of moves around your hand in an interesting way. But I think after that first trick, where your hand's set, most of the decisions are like, yeah, do I go to 1 or 5? If you mess up going to 5, you try to stick for 3. Also, the math is interesting at 3 players, and I want to get more into 4 and 3 players later. But at 3 players, it's 10 tricks with the 1 card, so that's 11 tricks, which, if you play perfectly, where 2 players get 5 and 1 player gets 1, then everything can be perfect. Everything can be great. So it sometimes has rounds where everyone is trying to get, either 5 or 1, and it kind of just works out. It kind of brings up that idea of bidding games where, Final Binary, we'll talk about later, where you can't kind of bid where everything works out. Oh, hi, Boris. You can't, so like if there's 10 tricks and someone bids 3 and 5, you can't bid 2. Because I think there's that feeling of when everybody wants it to fall into line, it often does. And maybe that's just the players I play with, but it would happen somewhat regularly that it would be 5-5-1. But then you try to get into that flow of like, okay, I'm trying to mess someone up. Maybe I'm trying to make them go over or whatever. But again, you're trying to hit that 1 and 5, so it's a little tough. And I think
It is clever though. I think the 3 consolation is good. I just almost wish it wasn't perfect amount of trick. So the very first trick is simultaneous, which already makes it a little less strategic, right? Like if it was in order, the hammer would have a lot of power, but you could just probably play 3 rounds or rounds per player and have someone else choose. But anywho, yeah, does 1/3 say truly matter, especially if the other players could just pick the opposite? But I guess, again, you're putting 1/30 votes in. Hey, real quick, interjecting Taylor here. One thing I forgot to mention in the final thoughts that I thought was cool about the simultaneous first trick is that you can pick a card that is the next card compared to another card in your hand and know it will at least be the highest of that suit. So say you pick the 20 because you have the 19. Granted, you might not have that work out anyway because of the way the suits system work. Like, let's say you pick the 20 and then the next one behind it is like the 12, right? And also someone else picks like a 1 through 11 or whatever it may be, then the 1 through 15 is going to be trump the rising moon, I believe. And so then even though your 19 is the highest of that suit, you know, like the 15 could still trump it. So again, you're up to chance, but there's some clever things that you can try to get happen. It still is kind of like a little throwing your hands in the air, like anything can happen. But I think there's some cool things that you can try to get happen. So just want to say that because I think I forgot. All right, back to past Taylor, talking about Lunar tricks. Bye, oh no! I think at 4 players, you're dealt that card that you always have to put in and you're not saying anything. It's kind of funny because it makes it sting a little bit that you're not having an influence, but also like I said, if your mindset is just, oh, this is just setting the game, then it feels whatever, but it also makes you take a trick right away. So if you have like a really weak hand, but you might have just randomly gotten the highest card in trump through a non-decision, then I think it kind of loses that fun hook. So I'd almost recommend it at 3, but then at 3 you have that weird math where everyone can split 5-5-1. So I think the 4 math of the tricks is a little better. I don't know. This is a strange beast. So sometimes you can get hosed because there's no way to get to 5 tricks, but you already got a trick. I guess then you try to go for 3 and get a consolation. But it feels tough when the core hook of the game is like, whoa, player-defined suits in a way, and it doesn't quite 100% feel that way. It feels just a wee bit random. But I trust a lot of folks who really like this game. So if you do, sound off in the comments. I could be definitely very much missing something. But that is my hot take on Lunar Trek. Ready for a hotter take? Final binary. So I am in the large minority on this one. I think most people love this game. I had huge expectations because I love Nikos Dice. One of my favorite games, one of the best trick-taking games ever, and this was a follow-up to that. So I had huge expectations, and maybe that's part of it. I think I want to break this game down into pros and cons for me, personally. And I do think it's a fun, great game that I would definitely play. So I'll lead it off with that. But oh boy, does this game do so many things that just rub me the wrong way. It's like, let's say you had a favorite sandwich. Maybe you love a BLT, right? And you're like, oh boy, I can't wait to go eat a BLT. And the best BLT you've ever had is in this restaurant. And the restaurant is extremely hard to get to, extremely expensive. Everyone is really mean and rude, and I don't know, the bathrooms are bad. I'm trying to think of other things. It's just all this stuff surrounding this experience that is so, that rubs me so much the wrong way. Okay, so let's first talk about setup. My goodness gracious. I've played multiple times. I've been taught by multiple different people. And I've tried to teach it and set it up, and it's always been wrong. User error, right? That's fine. Even though we play a lot of trick-taking games, that's fine. So it's a comically annoying game to teach and play. But I mean, my favorite game is Decrypto, and that is one of the hardest games to teach. But once you get playing Decrypto, it is an absolutely wonderful experience. So similar, Final Binary, once you get playing Final Binary, it is a wonderful experience. But then you get another hook, right? So it has random trump, which isn't even a card that's cut out. So I don't even know why that exists, in what world that needs to exist, I don't know. Again, small thing, that's totally fine. But then every single time you set up and shuffle and deal, you have to separate out the ranked cards and the non-ranked cards. Annoying, tedious, sure, fine, but maybe if, everyone's doing it, that's totally cool. A little bit much though. Then you have the setup, where you have the purple thing that sets your initial binary value, which gets changed very quickly. So I don't know why that's in it. So that's another bleh. Then you have the passing. Totally fine, but that setup is funny because to me, I've had it to where it's a bit, because with a bid as you go game, you already have so much flexibility and you already are manipulating your hand. Like the game gives you so many tools. So then to add passing onto an already fiddly setup is just a little bit too much for me, but it's fine. It's cool. Passing, choice, that's great. But then you have the fact that you can't bid the same number as everyone, like I was just talking about. You can't make it all even. But in a bid as you go game. And I've had every game I play of this, someone messes that up, and it's such a feel bad moment because they're like, oh, I have to just bid this now? Cool. I get why part of that is cool gameplay wise, because it kind of, definitely incentivizes you to play your non-ranked cards earlier to bid as you go sooner so that you don't get put in that position. But it is such a end of the hand gotcha, let's do math thing that's very gamery in the middle of the hand that it feels very stilted. And then on top of that, you're flipping cards all the time. You are always doing math, and everyone's always doing math. So you always are just constantly recalculating everything. So you can't look at the table and find out what you have. You have to look at the table and look at everyone's number and find out what you're going to play. All that to say, I think it's a great game. That's a very weird thing about Final Binary. It is, there's a phrase called, is the juice worth the squeeze? I am putting this crazy amount, it's a vice grip amount of squeeze. I'm putting this in a pressurized wheel crank amount of squeeze to get the juice out, but it tastes good. I like the taste of the juice. I think it's cool. I think it's a cool game. But man, does it do so much to rub me the wrong way. Another one. I just remembered another one. If you tie it, then you have to play another hand. Also the scoring. The scoring is... Why? Okay. I don't like the scoring. It's very convoluted. And I don't like scoring that just goes up and up. So if you do well in the first round, it's not as good as if you do well in the third round. Why? This game was perfectly created in a lab to rub me the wrong way, but then still be good. I recommend you play this game. I think the gameplay is very interesting. I think tying your bid to a rank manipulator is cool. I think there's great times to be had in this game. I've had fun. It's very simple once you get playing. It's not bad at all. But, does this game... This is like crawling through a thorny bush to find a little... This is like finding hay in a needle stack. Jeez Louise. But, I think it's cool. It's a cool way to have bid as you go, tying it to rank manipulation, and then having that all be part of the cards. I like that the cards, every time you play a suitless card, that is when you choose when to manipulate your bid. I like that the rank manipulation is anywhere from 0 to quick maths 7. And it matters. It feels good. This game could be streamlined. This game could be so clean, so smooth. It reminds me once I was talking to a friend who was talking about a certain artist that was describing a certain album of theirs, or the first few tracks of an album of theirs that was very abrasive and kind of was an aggressive start. And he described it as it was weeding out those who really want to get to the gems of later on in the album. And you have to really dig to find it and work hard to find it. And that's almost what this game feels like. And maybe it's just personally to me, where I have to get past it. I have to, diamond in the rough. Diamond in the rough. There you go. That's my review of Final Binary. Whew. I don't know if I've gotten this heated about a game. But yeah, so much wrong, but worth it. Anywho, so that is Final Binary and Lunar Trick. I would love a wider release of Final Binary where they took scissors to everything, smoothed it, rough sandpaper, and I think it would be stellar. I think it'd be another Nikos Dice. Oh boy, as it is, woof mama. But I hope that helps. I hope it does get a release because it's cool and slick. Yeah, and thanks so much for watching. I actually am sitting next to, with this whole rant, I'm sitting next to, look at that. Bunch of cool stuff, huh? Bunch of crazy cool stuff came in. So next month, we're gonna be covering a lot of this. So that is gonna be a hoot and a half, and a goof and a gaff. So thanks so much. See you then. Okay, bye.